What's up, you guys? I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be reacting to this video by the artistic Alabel. Poppy Playtime needs to wrap it up. And clap emojis too. Awesome. I've heard a lot about this game, and honestly, all I can say for now is I really love the character designs. Specifically, Lily Lovebraid, I think that's her name. Alright? Enough of all this silliness. It's time to get in.
Poppy Playtime needs to wrap it up. Chapter 5 came out and it truly feels like the most useless chapter.
Okay. That's not a surprising claim from you. I mean, I've seen your miraculous videos. But, okay. Let's see how well you can substantiate your point.
That isn't to say that important lore and stuff didn't happen, but this feels like the fluffiest chapter yet. With how the last chapter ended, we should have gotten the prototype reveal early and have the entire chapter be about him, the pursuit against player, and tying up any loose ends such as the identity of the player as well as the prototype's motivation and such. Sure, Chapter 5 did give us context on the prototype, such as, and spoilers for Chapter 5, this whole video is going to be spoilers, such as
Well, yeah, I'm okay with the spoilers to Poppy Playtime at this point.
Him actually being Ollie and actually being Poppy's brother. We also learn that he's jealous of how their fathers seem to prioritize Poppy. That's some final chapter revelations if I ever heard them. Why are they extending the story longer than it needs to be?
Best in file storytelling? Okay, gotta look up what in file means.
This could have been resolved in Chapter 5. All of it. But no, we got so much extra fluff that it took up the majority of what should have been the final chapter. Hello everyone, my name's Alabel, and today's verse is, "And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive you your sins." Mark 11, verse 25. So, about that fluff. Did we need Giblet? As much of a homie he is, no. It's far...
Don't you mean giblet? Sorry. Didn't you mean to say giblet?
Far too late to introduce a rebellion. Did we need Chum Chompkins? As friend-shaped as he is, no. Did we need the Outimals? Absolutely not. And did we need Lily Lovebraids?
She was like the title character in the trailers and everything. And not gonna lie, her design was pretty cool and I really like that. I also really like the purple and how much yellow there is, because purple and yellow are opposites on the color wheel. So yeah.
No, but she does serve a purpose that I can appreciate. She could have been worked into this hypothetical final chapter had she been revealed earlier and been a more prominent problem. Her story is actually a great inclusion in my opinion. The problem with Lily is that she's basically Mommy Longlegs 2.0 mixed with some aspects of Miss Delight and Doughy. She's doing the condescending infantile talk, pretending to be friendly. She's captured Poppy. She likes playing games. Her growing hair that she can manipulate is very similar to Mommy's stretchy limbs. She plays tag / hide and seek with the player, basically does the PJ Pugapillar thing again, and delusionally talks to an inanimate object that she named, and she has / had multiple personalities. But Mommy, Doughy, and Delight in a blender, and you get Lily. While I do think that Lily was handled better than Mommy Longlegs overall, the fact that we are recycling types of villains means we've hit a creative wall and we need to get the story to a close. I'll talk more about Lily later because I do actually like her and consider her my favorite character in the franchise so far, but she is part of a bigger problem. What was the point of the Outimals? I'll tell you. The point was to further exacerbate how awful Playtime Co. is and add more shock value.
More shock value, you say, huh?
The thing is, we already get the picture. We know they're awful. We had chapters 2, 3, and 4 to understand how awful they are. We don't need to be reminded for the umpteenth time. They're evil, okay? Wrap it up.
Now it makes sense why she added the clap emojis in her video. Well, and also about that point you said, well, sadly, that's the era we live in. When when someone has a certain point, they will drill it into your skull as much as possible to make sure you get the point, because we can't be allowed to forget for even 1 second who the bad guys are. And so they must shove this in their faces again and again and again.
This is now my third time talking about Poppy Playtime. I honestly never thought I would make this many videos about this game, but here we are. I've never played the game due to me being a chicken when it comes to horror, as well as my disdain towards puzzles.
Fancy. Here's a secret viewer of this video. I'm also not a big fan of horror. Well, not really. I was never really a big fan of horror, but that is slowly changing. I remember when I was like 8 to 10, I would sometimes see horror movie posters, and simply that would scare me a lot. Even when there wasn't really enough to be scared of specifically from the posters. Also, I used to be into creepypastas as a kid, like Sonic.exe and stuff. But I am starting to get into things like Five Nights at Freddy's, Garten of Banban, and also Poppy Playtime. I might actually play those games at one point, but fun story about Five Nights at Freddy's, I got into that when I was in like ninth grade. Not ninth grade, 8th grade. Yeah, it was 8th grade. I got into Five Nights at Freddy's, and for a while I wasn't able to sleep. And not only was I not able to sleep, but I actually had a couple of dreams about Five Nights at Freddy's. One was a nightmare, and the others were okay. Sorry for the side tangent, but hey, point is, I'm not a big fan of horror for now at least, but who knows? Maybe that'll change. Or that practically already is changing, so yeah. Oh, and also, you don't like puzzles? I love puzzles.
Throw in the fact that the game designers aren't even really the best at making puzzles, and the result ends up being that this game is just not meant for me. But I've watched Let's Plays of each chapter, and while I initially wasn't interested because Chapter 1 was mostly a nothing burger for me, Chapter 2 and onward made it clear to me that the writers of Mob Entertainment know how to make a good, compelling story with fun lore.
And that fun lore is something I wish to see for myself.
But seeing the frustration of so many YouTubers when it comes to solving puzzles, trying to navigate through areas, making finding the bits of lore a bit of a chore, and other faulty game design things, it seems to me that Poppy Playtime should have been an indie TV show rather than a game.
Let's talk about this for a second. Do I love puzzles? Yeah, I actually kind of do love. I actually do love puzzles, like many of them. I became a cubing nerd when I was in middle school, and what else? Well, yeah, I do like puzzles in certain video games. I'm, sometimes it can be a bit frustrating because a lot of times it's not really explicit what you need to do or how to do it or what does what. And you kind of just have to figure it out. And that's the aspect that is frustrating to me at least. I've never this is an issue I've had with certain open world games like The Incredible Hulk or GTA San Andreas, where I kind of just have to figure out where I need to go and stuff. But hey, that'll change.
But since I didn't personally play the game and can only speak on others' experience in terms of gameplay, I would rather discuss the story since that's more of my area of expertise. In terms of story pacing, did you know that this entire game, all chapters so far, have pretty much taken place in the span of one day?
What?
Insane, right? The only time you might be able to fudge some hours is when player got knocked out after the train crash. But I don't think that lasted very long. I don't even think it's been 24 hours yet. Definitely no more than 30. And that's crazy to think about. We as the audience are supposed to believe that all of this is happening within a day? I mean, I guess. If Frieza can make 5 minutes last for 10 episodes, I suppose anything is possible when you're telling a story.
For you to make 5 minutes last for 10 episodes, and the writers can make and the writers can make 48 minutes last tens of episodes. Which, yeah,
Is this a good or bad thing? I guess that depends on how you feel about it and whether it's okay or whether it destroys your suspension of disbelief. I just thought that that was a fun thing to think about. Some games don't really take themselves seriously, so honestly, who cares? But this game does seem to take itself seriously, so is this a realistic thing to be happening in one day? Anyway,
maybe.
something that did bug me was how the game seemed to have either too many puzzles or puzzles that took too long to complete. It seems the ratio of puzzles to story was a bit off. And yeah, I get it. How dare this video game have video game elements in it? Yes.
How dare this video game have video game elements in it? Sorry, that's just way too
The
funny.
game needs to be a game, but something just felt off from the Let's Plays I watched. I don't mean it being a skill issue for figuring out the puzzles. It did legitimately seem like the puzzles took over the game. I know puzzle horror games can be done well, or at least in a way that doesn't seem off balance. Mad Father is an RPG horror that managed to balance the story and the puzzles quite well. The puzzles in that game make some sort of sense and still manage to keep the flow of the story. The puzzles in Poppy Playtime almost seem to take you out of the story momentarily. Almost like commercial breaks. I don't know, that's just how I felt. I know I didn't personally play the game and am really only there for the story, so maybe it feels like the puzzles are too much from my perspective, but let me know what you think, especially if you did play the chapter.
Well, like I said, I have not played Poppy Playtime, but I do want to sort of at some point. But who knows? I might get I might get frustrated by. I might get frustrated in the first hour of the game of Poppy Playtime 1. Given who I am with with games like open world games or 3D platformers like I don't know, Lego Star Wars or something. I don't know, games I don't know, 3D platformer levels where it requires more exploration and stuff to do. And yeah, that's kind of hasn't been my thing for a while, but who knows.
But let's continue with the rest of the review. The animals felt very useless. Aside from just being another means of ramming home how awful this toy company is, they just serve the same purpose as the tiny wuggies, the smiling critters, and the nightmare critters. They're just tiny things that serve as nuisances that halt faster progression. We honestly didn't need more than the wuggies and the smiling critters. It all felt more gimmicky the moment the nightmare critters were introduced. Cut out the entire Outimals section and, while we're at it, cut out the whole player losing the grab pack thing. You get it back almost immediately, and the new hands, well, some of them, serve very similar functions as the old ones. So I understand that it was for the purpose of temporary dread and helplessness, but if you're going to do that, either make it a substantial part of the game or don't do it at all. I've got to admit, though, I think the gadgets gained in this chapter are my favorite sets of gadgets in the game so far. The pressure hand is super cool, as well as the hot and cold hands. The magnets add a cool mechanic as well. And I think I really adore Glowy. It's super cute, and I love how it has a personality. It gets scared, it gets excited,
Glowy the star.
and offended. Makes you wonder if it's completely AI or if it's an experiment based off a real person as well. Huh. Either way, as is, it's cool and the blacklight feature is neat as well. Plus, stars are my favorite shape, so I want one.
Stars are your favorite shape, and you want one. tell by simply looking at it. And also, quick, quick talk. I love these. For some reason, I really like these star eyes that I've seen. Like these star eyes that I've seen in certain animes, and certain characters are really cool. And honestly, the graphics, eye graphics for characters are also another really cool thing that I really like. And then again, sorry for rambling. Let's get back in.
So yeah, cut out the Outimals and the losing the grab pack. If we end up doing that, we should also cut out Giblet and Chum as well. They feel so unnecessary. Giblet leading a rebellion should have been introduced a long time ago. And it's like a rebellion of one, by the way, now that I think about it. Maybe something else is going on behind the scenes, I don't know. But again, he and his relationship with Poppy feels forced. I don't like the idea of him being a potential replacement for Kissy, when Kissy is 1000% better in every single conceivable way and is the actual MVP of the entire franchise. Hashtag
Kissy Missy. A palette swap of Huggy Wuggy.
justice for Kid Missy. Yes, while Lily might be my favorite character, I fully acknowledge that Kissy is objectively the best character in the game. Is she and Huggy dead? I don't know. Probably.
Who knows?
Let's be honest here. No one is going to make it through this story alive, except maybe the player. Maybe Poppy, but that might be stretching it. The only way I can see anyone other than the player surviving is if they leave the factory but go into hiding in the wilderness. I don't think I want to do that, though. And plus, it's game over if any kind of law enforcement gets a hold of them. So I don't think any toy is surviving. But even
It's game over for the toys or for the law enforcement. Honestly, I bet it's would be the law enforcement that would be game over. But yeah, it would also be a problem for the toys too.
so, it would have been nice for Kissy to make it to the final chapter. And she might still be alive. We don't know. We thought Huggy was dead, and yet he wasn't. So, plus she survived way worse than this, maybe. So, she could still be alive. Kind of hoping she is. But anyway, I don't know. This isn't even a criticism of the story. I just like Kissy, and I want her and Huggy to be happy because that reunion was genuinely sweet and wholesome, and their fate was so cruel. Then again, isn't that the whole story of the game? How cruel life and some individuals can be. There's no happiness at Playtime Co. No happy endings. Is, however, on site when it comes to the prototype. He messed with the wrong pink lovable giant. Speaking of which, I don't think the prototype is that impressive. What I mean is,
I wonder what you mean by the prototype is not unimpressive. I mean, no happy endings in Playtime Co., huh?
his design is cool and everything, so is his voice and backstory. He has a threatening presence and all, but, like, Kissy was heavily injured and she was able to hurt the prototype fairly effortlessly. That doesn't bode well for the big bad of the series. That'd be like if Voldemort, the all-powerful wizard who's been around for decades, was almost taken out by Cedric Diggory, a teenager and side character in Book 4. This is Harry Potter, by the way, if you didn't know that, because I know not everyone has seen or read Harry Potter, so I want to give that context.
Not everybody has seen or read Harry Potter. Well, okay. I mean, I did know. Well, actually, I'm just gonna say thank you. I mean, I'm one of those people who have never seen the Harry Potter movies, or read the book since that magic isn't for me anymore. But since I don't know, it's just never been for me. But hey, thanks. But thank you for mentioning that.
It makes him seem a lot less threatening, yeah? We've heard about how powerful the prototype is, and he's been hyped up for years. And yet, during his first appearance, he gets messed up by a creature that is operating at like 40% and is tinier, fluffier, skinnier, and literally has no claws or pointy bits other than teeth. How in the world did the boss almost lose at that moment? And sure, the prototype did end up getting Kissy back soon after, but still, that first instance there, that ruined part of his image a little bit. At least it did for me. He's still intimidating, but yeah. The prototype is going to need some sort of upgrade, or else I will not be able to take him seriously. And also, I don't understand the prototype's dynamic with the player. He's clearly mad at the player, as I'm sure many toys and experiments would be, since the player used to work at the factory. But the prototype acts as if the player has been such a nuisance when he's been using the player for his own benefit. Like, I understand the prototype's anger towards Poppy. I get the whole jealousy thing and the whole Poppy fundamentally disagreeing with a lot of what the prototype stands for, as well as trying to destroy everything that he has built up. That anger makes sense. But towards the player? The player has dealt with toys that would be a problem for prototype. The prototype has been using the player like a puppet to do its bidding and make certain things happen. So you would expect the prototype to be all smug when talking to the player and being all like, "I've gotten this powerful thanks to you. You've been a great tool for me." Which would add some great conflict if the player had any personality.
Okay, first off, that part of the video. You've been a great tool to me. That honestly makes you real. That honestly, no joke. That literally sounded super cool. That sounded like an actual cool villain. And if you actually ever voiced anybody in anything, be it an anime, video game, whatever, I think you'd make an awesome villain. I think you'd make an awesome, really cool villain. But who knows? Maybe I'm just insane. But then again, that whole voice acting thing was kind of funny, but also kind of cool.
But no, the prototype has no such smugness and acts as if it wasn't in control this entire time, which we were supposed to believe was the case. Was prototype not watching the player almost the entire time? That's how he was able to direct them as Ollie. Why not just kill the player? It had every means of doing so. It didn't kill the player because, presumably, it was using the player, right? If that's not the case, then I just don't get it. Why in the world did Prototype even want the player to take out Catnap? Catnap was not only his friend and loyal servant, but Prototype had the means of killing Catnap the entire time if he wanted to. What was the point? Prototype cannot be angry about what he made happen. Things progressed the way that they had with the player because Prototype allowed it to. I mean, we could just use the crazy and unstable card and just say he simply does stuff because he's messed up and traumatized and is still technically a child, not fully understanding its own actions. But that seems lazy, and once again, not so threatening. Don't get me wrong. Crazy and unstable villains can be threatening, but that's not the type of character we were led to believe Prototype was. We were fed the idea of a conniving, intelligent, calculating, insanely strong, and competent villain who believes he's in control of everything. But instead, we get this confused, psychopathic child who acts like the big boss of the playground and is somehow mad that his plan worked too well?
Perfect.
What? Again, the confused psychopathic child who acts like the big boss of the playground could make an awesome, compelling villain. If that's how he was always written. But he wasn't. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it was completely thought through. It's very inconsistent. Then again, I know some people left working on Poppy Playtime. Was it the creator or was it the director? Either way, staff changed behind the scenes and you can tell with how disjointed some things feel. Let's rewind a bit because I got super distracted talking about Kissy and the Prototype. The initial point I was making was that Chum is not necessary. Yes, he's playing double agent while working for the Prototype. This would have been a cool idea a lot earlier. Chum could have been someone helping the players secretly throughout the chapters. Except he'd conflict a bit with Poppy, Kissy, and pre-end of chapter 4 Ollie. So I'm not sure he'd fully work out. You know, without being redundant. But when it comes to the Prototype's helper, aside from Catnap, It could have easily been Lily. She ends up capturing the player Poppy and Kissy anyway, so just have her do that earlier and have shenanigans ensue. She could have been the mini boss and lackey of the prototype, and then he comes in for the finale.
That honestly would have been really cool to see. Also, even better, make Lily love. I mean, this is just a random fanfic idea, but what if Lily Lovebraids was the villain this whole time? I mean, I've never played. I never played the game as stated, but who knows? Maybe it'll be cool.
Yes, I know he hates her, but like, I don't know, they could have done something with that. Now, Lily. I like Lily. Yes, she's super similar to past villains, which is lazy, but she's done so well. For the most part. I've seen some people complain about her design, but I like how she looks. This design, from what we've seen, was never marketed as a toy to the masses. Yes, there's cutouts of her, but that's not necessarily indicative of her being a toy. After all, Miss Delight has a cutout, and she is not a marketable toy. For all we know, Lily Lovebraids is similar to Miss Delight, who's humanoid and would just work around the kids who were trapped in this messed up community. You know, before Dower of Joy happened and things got derailed and Lily ended up being Miss Gracie and all that stuff, so her plans ended up not working out. Anyway.
The Hour of Joy.
Her looking so human-like and yet still like a toy was probably intended to make the kids feel like she's one of them or something. Of course, I could have missed something and maybe she was meant to be a marketable toy. But does it really matter? Yes, she looks very different stylistically from most other characters. But like, so what? Doey looks really different too, and I don't see anyone complaining about him. It's fine. She's fine. I mean, if you don't like how she looks, that's also fine. It's whatever. But her story is so good.
Okay. I'm gonna guess that the story is really, if the story's really awesome, then let's hear it.
She is poetic justice personified. Sure, you could argue Dr. Sawyer was as well, but the point is hammered way more strongly with Lily. Firstly, I love that as a human, she's a parody of Miss Rachel. It's so funny, and she's so good at it. I loved that. I also want Miss Rachel to react to Miss Gracie because that is gold. But I also love how unsettling she is, and just this idea that the kids were all brainwashed because of her quote-unquote educational videos. She used this air of colorful friendliness and bubbliness to bring them in and relax them, and then uses that to whisper deception into their ears to convince them that their current reality is awful and being a toy is their only true calling. Day after day, forced.
Okay, I gotta stop. This is already getting pretty dark. Okay, maybe it's a little too soon to say. Maybe it's a little too early to say that, but hey, you're talking to someone who's never played a horror game in their lives, but hey. But honestly, this story sounds dark.
To watch her and be encouraged by her to lose their morals and parts of themselves. The hilarity of it all is that I am so sure most of the victims weren't falling for her nice act and must have really despised how often she treated them like they were stupid, incompetent, or uncooperative. Honestly, the audacity of her telling them that it's nothing to get angry over and just take a deep breath when guiding them through an unreasonable task. She's so condescending and awful. Queen Gaslighter. Such a fun character to hate.
Yep, she really is fun. She really is fun for me to hate. Honestly, I think this villain is going to hurt me personally. I mean, I'm probably one of those people who's going to really, really want to punch a character like that.
She ultimately and willingly becomes the face of their misery. All with a friendly smile and sweet voice. It's so awful and cruel and messed up, but it makes so much sense.
It's so awful and cruel and messed up. Oh man, this story sounds so fun and somehow so terrifying. So terrifying. Okay, I know that terrifying is the point of this horror game. I mean, no way, horror games are terrifying. This should be fun.
Miss Gracie was basically used as a torture device, and it's such a cool addition to the story. Getting introduced to her twisted role through Huggy's memories was a really clever way of having us sympathize with Huggy and all of the other toys in a much more unique way than just the various documents, videos, and other repetitive means of dropping lore in the series. Gracie was such a huge player in these kids' misery, and her image and utter hatred of her was so burned into their brains that instead of killing her, they wanted her to feel their pain tenfold by turning her into one of them, and then forcing her to watch her own brainwashing videos almost non-stop for, over a year? Of course she lost her mind and all sense of identity as she was convinced she was a toy named Lily. Her rational brain tried to fight back, but it lost out. But even as a toy and having forgotten her past actions, she's still isolated and hated by the other experiments because everyone knows exactly who and how she used to be. They're only keeping her alive to unknowingly suffer a cruel fate, with no one to care about her as she continues to wonder why. And the only thing she cares about is the prototype's approval, a toy cat, and the rotting corpse of her previous body.
Whoa. I've said this so many times, but man, this story is dark. For the people suffering, for the people that she made suffer, and for Lily herself. Whoa.
Chef's kiss. Poetic justice.
Poetic justice. But honestly, despite how many times I've said this story is terrifying, this is honestly really cool to see.
Honestly, my only issue with her, aside from her being introduced too late into the game, as well as what others have said regarding her chase sequence and how confusing and unsatisfying it is how she was taken out. Seriously? She dies by falling off a platform and that platform crushes her? It was so anticlimactic. I mean, you can make the argument that maybe she's not dead, given that Huggy survived a similar experience, but given how most of the other prominent antagonists were taken out, Lily went out like a punk. And I guess she was a punk as Miss Gracie, and you can make the argument that she didn't deserve a cool death, but yes, she did. It was so underwhelming and odd. For a good chunk of her section, you're burning off her hair locks on doors with fire. Why in the world wasn't she defeated with fire? It was right there. It was so obvious.
Right there.
Such a shame. Such a lame end to one of the coolest characters. But we shall move on. So far, I feel validated in my opinion on Poppy. In my last video, I wanted people to give her a break after she abandoned Kissy and the player because she's a traumatized and helpless child who didn't want to be put back into her cage. Plus, she's a 1-foot fragile doll who can't do much for herself. As far as we know, she doesn't have any special abilities. She can't really run that far, and her hands and feet are very tiny. She is quite literally very helpless, so I don't understand why people can't understand how scared she is and she can't do anything. I mean, sure, she could have stuck around for camaraderie.
Justice for Poppy as well.
Reasons, but she's been through a lot. Not to say that others haven't, but I think we can cut her some slack. Yes, it's not cool what she did, but 1, she acknowledged she did something wrong and apologized, and 2, let's not pretend everyone in this game is a saint. Most of the toys, while yes, are victims, have done awful things. In general, most of the toys have cannibalized each other, or done other awful things. And we know that Kissy has killed people, potentially innocent people who had no idea what awful things were going on at Playtime Co. Doughy offed at least one of his parents. Chum is helping the prototype despite hating it. The player was a former employee who likely knew what was going on. Like I said earlier, this is not a happy story and no one is truly innocent. Look, no one is denying the awful things these kids went through. It's truly horrific and it should happen to nobody. realistically, it wouldn't happen to anybody. But you understand what I mean. And it's because of these horrific things that happened to them that they turned into pretty unrecognizable individuals. And I don't mean physically. A lot of them compromised their morals.
Killing machines. They turned into killing machines.
All because of what happened to them. But you can't deny that some of them have done truly awful things, and that shouldn't be ignored. And for some very interesting reason, a lot of people in the fandom are more angry at Poppy than they are at the Playtime co-workers, who are the villains in all of this. And I get it, Poppy's supposed to be a good guy, so it's a little more egregious when a good guy does something bad, because the fall is a lot farther, but still, again, traumatized child who didn't want to go back to her prison. I don't understand why people are having a hard time with this.
Okay, honestly, this character sounds really messed up in a variety of ways.
Yes, being traumatized does not excuse you from being awful. But to be fair, in this particular instance that made people mad at Poppy, all she did was run away from her abuser. Literally, what else could she have done in that moment? She got scared and had a moment of weakness. It happens. Honestly, it seems like people are more mad about that than the fact that she kept you trapped at Playtime Co. That's a bigger boo-boo, in my opinion. But again, she apologized for that, and you understand why she did that. She's trying to defeat the prototype and save people, save other toys, and what have you, save the orphans. The point is, she's trying to do a good thing. She just went about it in a very not great way. But yeah. Clearly, her and Kissy made up, and Kissy probably understood Poppy's pain. If Kissy can get over it, so can you. I am sticking with Poppy as not the master villain. She's not working with the prototype. She just wants all of this insanity to stop. And you know what? Amen to that. Chapter 6 better be the last. Mob Entertainment. Sincerely, from most Poppy Playtime fans, wrap it up.
And also, sincerely to Zag Entertainment. Season 6, 7, and 8 of Miraculous Ladybug. Who knows? Please end it. Maybe you'll end it there, but who knows? I've heard that Thomas Astrick is planning to make Miraculous a whole franchise with multiple games and anime and at least 10 seasons of stuff. I've seen many cool characters from that show, and yeah, it's fun. Sorry for the random side tangent, but I felt like I had to say that.
Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know how you guys feel about Chapter 5 and Poppy Playtime as a whole. I had so much more to say about this chapter than I initially thought. And of course I had to draw Lily. It was inevitable. Let me know your thoughts in the comments along with the teapot emoji, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Special thanks to FV, Stealthy Pumpkin, and all of my channel members and patrons for being awesome. And if you want to be awesome too, you can be one of those things, as well as check me out on other social media places in the description below. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.
And that is the artistic Bell. Honestly, I had a lot of fun talking. I honestly had a lot of fun hearing you talk about this super terrifying story. And I mean, of course it's terrifying. It's a horror game, but it's like, man, this is messed up on many levels. And honestly, yeah, I can see how this is messed up. And honestly, the character designs, well, Lily Lovebraid is honestly my favorite one. Part of me kind of thought she was going to be the villain of the game, but yeah, that's it. But hey, I might play that game eventually. So, that's all I have to say. Let me know what you guys think.